Lesson 2.5 Student Journalist Rights. Over the years, there have been a multitude of court cases that have helped decide what exactly it means to be a student journalist. We're going to take a look at two famous court cases that dealt with what student journalists were allowed to say due to their First Amendment right to free speech, along with what they may not be allowed to say as journalists working on a publication that is paid for by the school. The first case you'll need to remember is called Tinker versus Des Moines. In the 1960s, America was a country in turmoil with regular protests and clashes between groups holding vastly different political and social views. One of the main things that was disagreed on was America's involvement in the Vietnam War, and many people across the country protested the war and regularly met with resistance from those who supported the war. It was during this time and in this atmosphere that an 8th grade student named Mary Beth Tinker, along with her 11th grade brother, John Tinker, and their friend Christopher Eckerd, and a few others, decided to wear black armbands to school to mourn the dead of the Vietnam War and a call for a Christmas truce which was being proposed by Robert Kennedy. Before they were able to wear these armbands to school, the principal heard about it, and fearing that it would cause controversy, he made a policy stating that students could not wear armbands of any kind to school. The students chose to wear the armbands to school anyway, and they were suspended for not following the school's policy. But they challenged their suspension in court, and while the lower court ruling went against them, they appealed the case all the way to the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land. The school district made the argument that the armbands were a distraction and that they made the students worry more about the Vietnam War than the lessons they needed to learn. But the students argued that the rules weren't fairly enforced, the armbands were not a distraction, but were instead a controversial and challenging statement that allowed for more learning and educational thinking. The Supreme Court overruled the lower court's decisions and decided that students' rights did not end when they were at school. In the majority opinion, Justice Abe Fortas wrote, "It can hardly be argued that either students or teachers shed their constitutional rights to freedom of speech or expression at the schoolhouse gate." Basically, the court said that as long as the speech or symbolic protest doesn't physically interfere with the school day, and as long as it doesn't interfere with the rights of other students at the school, students may speak, publish, and protest with the same freedom as anyone else. Essentially, it established the fact that student journalists have the same rights to free speech as professional journalists and any other citizens, and could not be suspended for doing so in a non-disruptive manner. Another important case that you should know about is the trial of Hazelwood versus Kuhlmeier. This case centered around the school newspaper at Hazelwood East High School during the 1982-1983 school year. The school newspaper was able to operate because the school district paid most of the costs for printing of the paper, as well as the supplies, textbooks, and a portion of the advisor's salary. On May 10, 1983, the school's journalism teacher submitted the rough draft of the paper, known as a proof, to the school's principal for prior review. The principal told the teacher and the staff that they could not publish two stories they were working on, one about teen pregnancy and the other about divorce, because he believed they were inappropriate and would bring unnecessary attention to the students and the families mentioned in the articles. They had no choice but to publish a shorter version of the paper without the two articles, but the student editor of the paper, Kathy Kuhlmeier, and the two student reporters who worked on the paper would later file a lawsuit in January of 1984. This case also made its way all the way to the Supreme Court, where, in a 5-3 ruling, it was decided that because the paper was paid for by the school district, the principal was allowed to censor what he felt was inappropriate within reason. The case basically said that if student speech doesn't match with the school's basic educational mission, the school principal or other authority was allowed to censor it and prevent the publication of inappropriate materials. This case made it clear that though the government couldn't censor student speech or writing outside of school, while at school functions or working on school funded publications, students may be censored by the school or the school district. This ability to censor includes all student publications, as well as things like graduation speeches and even theater productions. What this means is that as student journalists, you can be censored by your school and school district when working on school sponsored publications or productions. While you still have free speech, you need to remember that you're also working on a publication that is paid for and operated by a school that has its own job to do in educating and protecting students, and that comes first. There are many other cases that have played a role in defining what you can and cannot do as a student journalist, but these two give you the basic understanding of the balance you'll need to find between free speech and speech that might be considered inappropriate for school funded publications. The best place to find out more about your rights and responsibilities as a student journalist is here at the Student Press Law Center website, www.splc.org. Be sure to take some time on your own to check out this website and learn more about your rights and responsibilities as a student journalist.